What I know are 3 reasons why online events suck: low turnout, high drop-off rate, and unclear impact.
Oh my gosh, are we live? This is episode what, number 13.
Yes.
I am Marissa Kelly's co-host, John Harris of Buzzed Event Sites. And this episode is online events don't have to suck.
Yes.
So
Virtual, online events, whatever.
I don't really like virtual that much. I like online. Virtual sounds like I'm going to put on a headset and who knows what's going to happen. But
Okay.
I think just online is fair, right? Don't confuse
Mhm.
people. So, Marissa, what do you think are the 3 main reasons why an event organizer would say online events suck?
I would answer my thoughts and what I think about it, but this is definitely backed up data because we have been to events and we have seen these reports. What I know are 3 reasons why online events suck. What are the top 3 reasons? Low turnout, high drop off rate, and unclear impact. What is the benefit?
Right. And so let's break those down one by one. I think the
Yeah.
first and most pressing thing people always saying is the low turnout rates, right?
Mhm.
But low
Yes.
turnout is not some like nebulous mystery that you can't like figure out how to do something about. It's not like it's just you can do something about it, and just so
Mhm.
it can't be your excuse.
Mhm.
It's and so let's get into kind of how we can help kind of break that down. So low turnout would break down first into 2 categories: low percentage turnout, so like you have a ton of registrations but nobody actually shows up, or less people
Mhm.
show up, and then low absolute turnout. So low absolute turnout, that's just caused by low registrations. And Marissa, what does that mean if you have low registrations?
It could be 2 things. You didn't well, no, there's many things. I'm gonna say the first 2 things that pop up to my head. You and your content suck.
Yeah, that's one thing. Hopefully,
Okay,
that's not most
there's
people that are listening here.
don't take offense to that. It doesn't mean that, like, you're bad at this and you should stop doing it. I think it's just a matter of proper planning, and we've covered this in many episodes before of why you need to make this content and focusing on that. And I think that it won't happen if you do the right things about your content.
Right.
And then the second part is you just didn't do enough preparation, so you didn't bring enough people to register for your content, or you didn't market it enough. You didn't have a place for people to actually register.
Right.
So what is that thought about? I think we talked about that in
Episode
episode
6?
6.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's like one really major thing for episode 6 is like your registration page needs to be a landing page, right? It needs to have every single thing somebody wants to know, so it's like as easy to buy as clicking the checkout on Amazon, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
go back and listen to episode 6. We repeat ourselves enough, I think, right? So we need to get into episode 6. But so the major thing that we can help out with here, the bigger kind of pie to cut into, is low percentage turnout. So like you got a
Mhm.
lot of registrations, but not that many people show up. Um, as
Is
I
that a
speak,
bad thing though? I mean, like, when it comes down to it, it's a super bad thing?
not always. If one of your main reasons for the event is to get emails, you've
Yeah.
got your emails. Walk away,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Obviously, better if they show up. Not always a bad thing. Depends on what the. Sometimes it's disappointing, right?
Yeah.
You think you have 100 and you have 20. That's kind of, a punch in the stomach. But um, I think that we can work on low turnout. And so,
Mhm.
2 major issues with low turnout. The first thing is that, or the first thing that you can address is that the commitment is low, right? For an online event, because it's so
Mhm.
easy to register. And so that
Mhm.
makes registrations artificially inflate. So it's easy to register because one reason you don't have to pay anything for a
Mhm.
lot of them, right? Second, there's like no social commitment. So like you're not going with friends usually.
Mhm.
Finally, there's no time commitment. So like you don't actually even have to mentally block time in it, like
Yeah.
it's it's just too easy, right?
But we want it to be easy, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when you are planning an event, it should not be hard. You should not have to do all these things. It's more so that's the reason why your registrations are so, easy to come, we have your email. Thanks.
right. Yeah. And then so for each of those, we can talk about how to like increase commitment. So
Mhm.
um first let's tackle the free thing. So Marissa, how can
Yes.
you make it so that the event either isn't free or that there just is some monetary commitment?
The first thing is to add a price.
Right.
That's easy. But,
Yeah. But that might decrease registrations, obviously.
right, 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 exactly. So you have to decide if that's the right thing to do. When you have some type of monetary commitment in there, it means that there's, the attendee has a financial reason to show up, and that could be if you show up, and I've seen this before, you show up, you get your money back. And that's very simple. I mean, maybe that's not logistically possible for you. Maybe you don't have a ton of ideas of how to do that or how to make it enticing. But if you're trying to make it a monetary commitment, but you don't really want to take that money in to have to track it for accounting,
Yeah.
you can do like, hey, like if you sign up, it's really a donation. So that's still a monetary commitment, but the donation goes to something else. So you're not necessarily having to account for that money coming in as profit or revenue.
Right. And just makes the people feel a little more good about it, right?
Hmm.
Instead of them kind of asking, what am I getting? They know what they're giving, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Um, Another thing is to, yeah, so we talked about you can return it. Another one is um, to have a price, but if they show up to make it, donate it. So kind of
Yes.
to have that. Otherwise, hey, we're gonna take it.
Yeah.
A final way is to like reverse the incentive.
Hmm.
And so a ton of money already goes in events. If you're wanting people to show up, you're probably spending money on ads, on whatever other promotion. So sometimes
Hmm.
you could just instead spend some of that money on giving people like a $10 gift card if they show up, right?
Right.
Could be
Hmm.
Amazon, could be like Uber Eats, whatever.
Hmm.
A
Yes.
gift card could be good. Uh, any other ways you've seen other show up incentives? Marissa?
Yeah, I mean, and this could be you give away a $10 gift card, but you could also do door prizes or sponsorships, right? Like let's do a raffle with everyone that showed up. And this is specifically for online events. Obviously, in-person events are a little bit different because you have to do a little bit more planning logistically for that, but show up and if you show up and comment live, then we'll donate X amount in your name or
Yeah,
whatever. So there's ways to be creative, and it doesn't. I mean, in my head, if I'm an attendee, I don't necessarily I don't care. I care where the money goes, but I don't necessarily need to make that decision. If it goes somewhere charity, great. Cool. I don't have to think about it. Cool. I did my good deed. I got some good content and did my charity work for the month or whatever it is. So it can be all encompassing.
right.
Mhm.
So next thing to add is potential social commitment, right?
Mhm.
And this kind of sounds funny, like what the hell is social commitment, obviously. But if you go back to episode 6 again, it's getting those people engaged. Like if it is free, especially, like
Mhm.
that'll increase your registrations. But then how do you increase their commitment? Get them engaged in a conversation around
Mhm.
the event as soon as possible. So it could be like submitting questions to one
That's
of the
my favorite one.
yeah,
You're building in content for your Q&A session.
yeah,
What if you forget or you don't know, you're like so much content in your head? Get the attendees that are going to be there that are going to show up to ask you the questions because you might forget, might have a brain dump or a brain freeze that you don't want to come up with the Q&A questions, but they're right there, the attendees can give them to you.
right.
So
And then finally, time commitment. One great way to get people to do time commitment is to just really encourage those people to add it to their calendars. So it actually like lives on their
mhm,
calendar. So they see it
mhm.
coming. They get some, they just kind of, yeah, they see it coming. They get some notifications, send them an email reminder, and all of a sudden it starts taking up that mental space in people's heads, right?
Yes, yeah.
Um, but yeah, final big chunk of like increasing turnout, I think, is addressing the technical barriers that are probably holding a ton of people from actually showing up.
Yes.
And so one of them is the one of the, that really gets me a lot is like access to the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has high speed internet access at all times, all day, every day,
Right.
right? We've got to accept that,
Yeah.
right?
It's just they don't have the ability to connect, or the connection where they are is just not that great. So
Yeah,
also consider that in your timing of your events. Who's your audience, and are you trying to get the people that are constantly online all day, or people that are not? That's really key. That sometimes I don't think about because I want to frame events around my workday, but I realize that not everyone
yeah,
works normal like 9 to 5 hours,
yeah.
so.
And then, yeah, some people might not even really have that very high speed internet even at home,
Mhm.
right? So if you're asking them to jump onto like a really high level event platform, they might not even be able to like load the thing up properly.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's a huge, like one of these hidden barriers for people. It's like, oh, why didn't they show up? Well, maybe they tried, but they literally just like it was so glitchy they didn't even have any experience and they left.
Yeah.
Right. So
Mhm.
aiming to be inclusive by using the as low powered a solution as possible, like Buzzed
Mhm.
event sites, totally self promotional here. Um,
Nice. Shameless
really make it a
self-promotion.
lot easier for people to get in. Another one is just like um, the ability, like people's just like technical proficiency, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe if you're getting them to like download something, install something, load something up, navigate through a whole bunch of different layers,
Mhm.
probably you're going to lose some people along the way, right? The more steps, the harder it's going to be. Again, Buzzed event sites, click a link and you're in, right? Um, there are other platforms that do the same, but like it depends on what you're choosing. Like if you're going with Zoom, a
Mhm.
ton of times it seems every time I go on Zoom when I really have to be somewhere at some time, that's when Zoom tells me, "Oops, we're just going to update right now." It's like I,
This happened to me
I
last
really
week.
feel
I was
you.
like, I'm ready to get on Zoom," and then they're like, "No, you have to update."
Yeah.
Took another 10 minutes to get on Zoom.
Mandatory, not allowed to skip this, can't even
No.
delay till tonight. Like
And
even
Zoom doesn't let you know that they're
yeah,
about to do that,
there's
really.
nothing. As soon as you click the meeting, like just pause. We're just gonna download 100 megabytes right now and reinstall. Don't worry about it. You're not
Which
busy.
could be an issue with
Like
depending
they
on
call
your.
it Zoom meetings for fuck's sakes. Like meetings. It's supposed to be on time.
Yes.
Come
Oh
on.
my gosh. Oh, we're not gonna cover Zoom fatigue again, but it's just
No.
like.
Well, that is it is one of the human barriers though. Like if
Yes.
you're that one of the reasons people won't show up, it's like, do I
Mhm.
want to jump into another Zoom right now? Um, like there are people that spend 8 hours a day on Zoom, right? Like if you're asking them to spend another hour in their free time, they're probably like, my
Yeah.
eyes hurt. Like
Yes. I
so,
actually had someone ask me today, "Are we gonna talk on Zoom or the phone?" And I was like, "Phone, thank you for
yeah,
giving me the option, because I'm so over Zoom meetings, by that time. It's the end of the day. I don't wanna
right.
be on the screen anymore."
Yeah.
Um,
One thing we didn't mention here, just overloaded devices. So we talked about potentially low powered internet, just low powered devices. Like not everybody
mhm.
can install and run something, and depends on
Yes.
what device they have handy. We're not all live stream producers. We're not all at some amazing technology station all day, right?
Yes.
When I have to leave the house to take the kids out or do whatever, do errands, being able to access an online event on my mobile phone makes me more likely to show up, right?
Yes.
There's all these
Right.
invisible barriers you don't see. You see 50% no show. How much of that was because people like were out of their house, didn't have good internet access? It's not all of them giving you a personal slight by saying your content sucks and I don't care.
Right. Right.
It's a ton of people just like literally they couldn't for some reason.
I
And if
couldn't.
you'd
Mhm.
pre-planned something that was easier for them, then maybe they would have been there.
But all good points about low turnout. So I think we definitely want to move on to the second. Um, the
Reason
second,
events
yes.
suck.
What
Virtual events suck.
what the second reason virtual online events suck is high drop off.
Right. And
And
what do
what
you
do you
want to
think
say?
is
Do you
the
want to say
yeah?
what the first reason that you might have high drop off rates is because you have terrible content. But let's assume
okay,
that that's
so
not, that's not, let's assume
what's
that's not.
terrible content? Is that it's objective based on like the content that's being delivered, or is it just like terrible planning, terrible?
Yeah, I'd say it's going to come down to kind of planning. It could be like as simple as like a mismatch. Like that's not what those people wanted to hear, not how you advertised it.
Mhm.
It could be that your intro was too slow. Like you're like,
Mhm.
maybe you didn't start on time. Maybe you didn't, maybe you did like, and it's okay to not start on time as long as you tell people, right? Tell people I'm going to be 90 seconds and then be there in 90 seconds.
Yes.
Uh,
So, okay, so what is I don't know. Could be a whole nother episode, but I think that like there's got to be some grace involved in like not starting on time, but also I think people just don't plan for that potentially happening, even if they have a slide like event will start soon. Like I'm going to use an example of this virtual event that I shared with you last Saturday. I think this Saturday event was supposed to start at the top of the hour. It started 2 minutes after, but it
yeah,
said event will start soon, and it was live. So they had like a placeholder like
yeah,
until they were ready. Obviously, there's some internal things that they have to work out, make sure it's working properly, and I'm sure that's what it is. 'Cause it was such a big event that they needed to make sure one, it was live, and that you could hear sound. So I saw the overlay and I heard the sound in the background, and so they were probably doing testing to make sure one, it was working, right? So I'm watching the event, and the whole event was like 5 minutes total, but there was close to, I forgot the numbers. It was like 35,000 watching live, and then like at the end of the day it was like 300,000 watching live. They just watched their replay, but it was like, okay, this is perfect. Like they told me that they were about to start, they started, they finished, and at the end it said thank you. So it was just like these visual cues of like this
yeah,
event is happening, and there was no registration. It was just like it's happening on YouTube. Let's go. They didn't keep us waiting. So that
yeah.
was a really cool thing because I was watching it as an audience member, but I was also as a producer. I'm like, yes, it's so efficient. Thank you. I want to like thank the right person. They
Yeah,
did all the right things. So
nice. Um, yeah, and so it can be that short, but even though you were waiting there, there's still like they kept you engaged even while you were waiting,
yeah.
which
Oh,
is
I wish I was trying to record my screen, like, the chat was going, like,
yeah,
and it was really cool because no one was like, "Oh my god, where are they? Why hasn't it started?" Because it was, like, started. They just had the placeholder thing.
yeah,
So,
nice. And then yeah, otherwise like sometimes too long of an intro, people just
yeah.
like thank their sponsors forever. Just like got to get to it, got to get to the hard hitting stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then so maybe that's why people drop off immediately. That's where most virtual events see the most drop off is like the immediate, and that's kind of how you can address that.
Mhm.
But the second place is just like people just kind of leave over time, and so you gotta just increase engagement. Again,
Yeah.
it's events.
Mm.
Conversation is the number
Mhm.
one thing, and and so like to make that easier, one thing to sorry Eric, you want I think or sorry what's Eric's last name at Zoom?
I don't know. Zoom
But
Eric.
yeah, but Zoom Eric. But just like the Zoom chat, like to have a chat going in Zoom, it's
Mhm.
tough. It's tough for it to be engaging because it's just like you're chatting in a text file. It's like it's 1996. It's
Right.
like you can't see who anybody is. There's no real like it's not really easy to use like emojis. There's no there's just no energy in it.
Mhm.
And if you want to like message somebody directly, it's like impossible to know if you're correctly messaging that person. So you send the wrong person messages, and then that's embarrassing. You're like, oh my God, and I gotta leave. Never show your face again. Uh, but so like just having it easy for people to have conversation and like check out profiles like on busted
Mhm.
event sites again is gonna make it a lot more just easy for people to kind of fill the gaps on their mind. Does that make sense? Like just being able to like if there's a pause in the presentation, which there might always be, just having the people have the ability to chatter like they would at a real event, right?
Let's
No.
pause for a second. I need to
Sure.
fix my camera. Yeah, it's in blurry status. I'm trying to reset it. There we go.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Third thing you can do to just increase engagement, especially at the beginning, but then also scattered throughout, is so many StreamYard producers are good at this, acknowledging people's existence when they come
Yes.
on. It's just being like, "Hey," and putting people on screen, and it just makes it feel so much more real, doesn't it? Like
Yes.
if you
Yes.
when your existence is acknowledged, you're like, "Oh wow, like maybe I should stay."
Yeah, we talked about this in the last episode about virtual engagement and how just to build that into like your event design, something, something that's talked about with MC, with the speakers, with entertainment, acknowledging the people that are there. It's and even people that might listen later, mention someone that maybe left a comment from a previous event that you had last time or whatever, if it's like
Right.
these not weekly events or not consistent events, um, you know, make note of people that are there listening, or watching, because it's a big deal because they spent their time coming there, and we talked about that before. It's the time commitment that they will, keep showing up to and keep investing in your business because, they're acknowledged. So,
Yeah, and that makes it like a real event, right?
mhm,
Not just listening to something some people just droning on like we are.
mm, mhm.
um, but hey, we're not. This isn't a live event, right? We're not trying to get people to stay for a half hour out of their day right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, final section. The unclear benefits is
Yes.
one reason people say virtual events suck, right?
Unclear benefits, yeah. I think, I had a conversation about this before because, when you think about events, they're marketing. Plain and simple, it's marketing. And I was recently reading a report about, events marketing and how different industries are investing in, online events, but also hybrid events, and how that's changed and how their budgets are adjusting. And, you know, it I don't know if you wanna compare it to traditional marketing, but it's there and it's not going away. And so when you think about, what to measure and how to measure, I mean, you gotta really look into, like, what you're doing as a whole, like, are you talking to every person, and did they show up to your event? But yeah, let's go backwards a little bit. The
Yeah,
the the unclear benefits are don't know what to measure.
yeah, and don't know how to measure,
Yeah.
right? But I would say that's the same for all events in general, right? Like
Mhm.
it's when with regular in-person events, it's easy to see like, oh, people came in the door and like there was this many people here for that long, with like pretty much that easy to do that stuff online. Like
Mhm.
marketing, I think marketing in general has that unclear benefits problem. So it's not like just an online events problem,
Right,
right?
right, right.
But so yeah, for virtual events, like what to measure, like some things that you could measure. What are your clients mostly measuring? I know that I hear the most from the successful event organizers is like time. Just like they want to know how many hours people were looking at their logo for, essentially. What's the total view time, total impression time? What do you think is the thing you hear the most?
For a benefit for the event organizer, yeah, it's visits to website.
Yeah,
Um, and this would be like a defined website, defined call to action. Even if it's like a charity event, like maybe adding on, like, what are you measuring? Like donations from day before, day of, and day after? Like, is that a good measurement? Because, people are getting, or whenever you start promoting the event to when you stop promoting the event, that would be a measurable thing if there's one general donation page, or if there's something they're downloading, that would be something you're measuring.
right. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be just be registrations in general, people showing
Mhm,
up, and then so for the how to measure section, uh, there's
mhm.
a ton of different ways, but like, um, I think I think it's like some of the things we've discussed already, it's kind of clear how to measure. But
Hmm.
I think that some people don't really realize what's possible
Yes.
with virtual events. Um, and so what things we've talked about already are kind of like the commonplace items, like to have like website visitors, to have downloads, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
One thing that can be really valuable for virtual events, the more you can get people engaged, the more you can get them to answer some questions. You can maybe, if you get registrations, that's fantastic, but that's kind of just like leads. If you can
Hmm.
get people to engage, then you can turn those into like lead qualification, right? So you can like
Right.
figure out like who are the people that are actually my best fit customers.
Right. Exactly. Also, newsletter signups. That's something that I think everyone should focus on in terms of what to measure if you are using that in your event design. Is it is it on some like some visual things for people to sign up? Is it being audibly said to multiple times, not just one? I mean, if you listen to our podcast, we say the same thing a lot, but it's like you have to keep telling people the same thing because they're not going to remember it, especially if they're getting tons of value in a 30-minute episode. You have to
Right.
keep repeating it over and over.
Right. Um, one thing I think you mentioned website traffic. That
Mhm.
doesn't just have to be like flow through from your event.
Mhm.
Some event site products like ours and some others
Yeah.
actually you can host the event on your website. And so
Mhm.
imagine if you have an hour long event, having all those people on your website for that hour, like sounds a little more valuable than just like a visit, right?
Mhm.
Especially what it does for your SEO by having that time on site.
Mhm. Yeah, one of
Um,
the simple things that I see, even if you are not hosting your online event on a website, which I totally recommend you do, and I hope you use Buzzit for this, and a nice producer like me. But um, it's just having a landing page on your website for a link to registration if it's not embedded into your website. Content for after the fact if they want to rewatch it, if it's a donation based event, like all of that stuff, just consistent traffic, one centralized place, and that can always be adjusted, whether it's
right,
pre-event, during event, or after. I think it's super important to have that, and I think a lot of people have this mindset when they see events that it's only online, like only on social. They don't see the bigger view. I mean, a lot of people that
right.
I come in contact because I'm heavily involved in social stuff and seeing a lot of social events on LinkedIn and YouTube and stuff like that, but I'm always curious, like, okay, great, I saw this, but I do want to go back to it. Now where do I go
Yeah.
back to it? And I didn't remember what tweet or what YouTube channel I saw it on. So like now how do I find it,
Yeah, having a
right?
permanent home for each event, with
Mhm.
all the content wrapped together so everybody knows exactly where to get back to it, super
Mhm.
important, right? If you want that event to become a permanent asset, then you gotta have an easy to find home, right?
Right, right.
Um, yeah, other things for just event possibility, just a ton of one-on-one relationship building, and then ideally just like actually booking meetings with people. Like
Mhm,
there is so much there that people aren't doing. People are running, you know, I like a simple LinkedIn live, and
mhm.
then maybe being like, well, but what did it get me? Right? Like, well, what did you try to get out of it?
Yeah, yeah. Did you follow up with all the people that like, even if you're not mentioning stuff on the event, like, did you follow up with people that were watching, or did you follow up people that said yes, or did you follow up with potential people that you want to watch a future event or something like that and say, "Hey, did you catch this?" Like, what is that process look like? Luckily, we know what needs to be done, but, like, a lot of people are only focused on that 1 hour or the 45 minutes that they do, and they don't think about what happens
For
before or
sure.
after, so
Yeah. Well, benefits might be unclear, like impact might be unclear. One of the really things that is extremely clear is the cost, right? Like if you're faced with a bit of a limited budget, which these days a lot of people might be,
Mhm.
obviously an online event is a lot lower cost than an in-person event.
Mhm.
And hey, as much as we are in love with online events here, we don't think they're going to replace in-person
Right.
event. They
Right.
never should, but as a marketing asset, it's a crazy thing to be overlooking just because you hear that they might have low turnout, high drop off, or unclear impact, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know for a fact that report that I mentioned that they're not going away, and especially if you are in B2B. I mean, B2B, like it's a lot of, in my opinion, is B2B. It's really person to person, because you're building those relationships, and sometimes they don't happen right away. So you have to think about those events as long term investments and something that you can't just forget about or not start building. Um,
Or your
yeah.
competition will. Watch out.
That's true. So, yeah, I think that was a great breakdown of why online events don't have to suck. I think there's a lot of really important stuff that you can focus on to make sure that your online events don't suck. And John, is there any final words for you from you?
Um, no, that's it for today.
Okay.
Just
Oh, again, low turnout, high drop off, unclear impact or
something you can do
benefits.
about all of them. Break it down. It's not.
Yes.
It's not. It's not something you can't fight. It's just get creative. Look at what's actually the issue, and do something about it. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't be a
Give us a
dinosaur.
call. Hey,
Yeah,
we should have a call to action in this.
we
Well,
should
what's our call to action?
go to
Our
rizpod.live for
yes.
show notes, more episodes.
Yes. And get all the information and maybe even talk to us someday one-on-one.
There you go.
So, perfect. We'll see you another time.
Buenas
Bye.
noches.